Hello, everybody. Welcome to Medicine and Science on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Palavito. I'm going to be the moderator for today's program. And the topic we're going to look at today is something that we've talked a lot on the Pod TV network. It's artificial intelligence and misinformation. Can this counter the vast amount of misinformation that's on the internet, where today 90%, at least according to some studies, which comes from the internet, 90% of people's news and their information actually comes from the internet. In other words, people are getting their news from the internet, not from major media sources. And the news sources on the internet could be correct information or misinformation. But AI is coming on board too. So we have another factor. Can AI come in and counter this information or misinformation? And with that, we have somebody that you've probably seen on the internet over and over again, especially LinkedIn, where he has an amazing amount of followers, but also on the Pod TV network, on Roku channels, and also Amazon channels, and also Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, of course, etc. We're going to bring in the famous Michael Patmos to give us the lead here about artificial intelligence and misinformation. I don't know where your talent agent is today, but this has been a big topic on the Pod TV network, is artificial intelligence. So, and now we're trying to see, can it counter the vast amount of misinformation on medical information that we're getting, which people are getting all the time on the internet. So we're going to toss the grenade to you. And
okay. For that kind introduction. I don't know about famous, but first of all, let me just say in total disclosure, I am not an expert in technology at all. My knowledge of artificial intelligence is really very pedestrian, but I do have some interesting new information and some comments to share. And I was working in Boston last year, and I attended a course put on by Harvard Medical School and the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. These are very lofty, prestigious institutions in the world of medicine. Harvard faculty are the top tier of the faculty, and Beth Israel Deaconess is one of the world's foremost teaching hospitals. Well, they put on a course every year called Update in Internal Medicine, and I took that course. And during that course, the course chairman, who's a professor and major head honcho at Harvard Medical School, made the following statement that really caught my attention. He said there are 5 areas of medicine that have really redefined or been the most exciting areas of medicine in the past couple of years. And those include messenger RNA vaccines, the gut microbiome, artificial intelligence, CRISPR gene editing technology, and psychedelics in the treatment of depression and other psychiatric disorders. With regard to artificial intelligence, he gave a presentation. It was a keynote presentation, actually, about all the areas where artificial intelligence is already actively being used in medicine. And it's all over the place. It's not a new thing. It's deeply embedded in healthcare already. And he said that a lot of doctors feel threatened by artificial intelligence. And he made a very interesting, this is kind of a quote of the course. He said, doctors will not be threatened or put out of business by artificial intelligence. Only doctors who don't use artificial intelligence in their clinical practice will be put out of business. So in other words, artificial intelligence is a tool now that doctors use and will use increasingly in the practice of medicine to be better doctors. And he gave all kinds of examples of where this is already happening. Now, it occurred to me, because I'm always getting in these debates with people on LinkedIn about COVID and COVID vaccination. And one of my LinkedIn contacts is an expert in this field. He said, "You're arguing with bots." And I didn't really even know what a bot was. He said, "You're arguing with nobody. These are not real profiles. They're bots." And so I did a little further digging, and I was shocked to find out that the United States State Department, the intelligence community in the United States and in Europe has confirmed that much of the COVID vaccine disinformation is coming into the United States from Russian and Chinese and other foreign adversaries, troll farms that this is AI generated garbage that's pushed into the United States through social media, through bots. So already artificial intelligence, troll farms, bots, dumping disinformation into the United States through Twitter and Facebook and other social media sources, and it's being echoed by these fake organizations like Physicians for Informed Consent and Children's Health Defense. They're just basically regurgitating, repeating this disinformation coming in from foreign adversaries. It's estimated that at least half, if not more, of the disinformation about COVID is coming from foreign adversaries. So what we really have already is a war for the perception of the average layperson. Uh, there's a war between foreign adversaries and sources of disinformation and legitimate medical sources in social media. The battleground is social media. The players are, as I've described, and the tool that they're using is artificial AI. And we are, in fact, fighting. I've stopped responding to bots because I was arguing with nobody. So to answer your question, is artificial intelligence a way to confront? Yes, it is, and it's an absolute necessity. Where we're headed is a war of information and disinformation waged by artificial intelligence, and that's the state, that's the world we live in. That's as much as I know about this subject. I'm very curious to hear what the other guests have to say.
Well, we're going to bring in Rick Rosner for the people that have seen Rick on a lot of our shows. I found him years ago as a member of the Mega Society, but a lot of people don't know what Mega Society is, but those are people that score on IQ tests better than 1 out of a million, which all the IQ tests are all screwed up because they're 4 digits and they may not norm properly. And it's, to me, a percentage of X, in other words, as opposed to I'm 196, I'm 140. That doesn't mean anything. It means, to me, what did you do as a percentage of other people that took the test? That means a lot. So if you do 1 out of a million, that's pretty good. So we'll bring in Rick Rosner, who just loves artificial intelligence.
Yeah, well, I love and I also hate it. And one thing that it's cheap to make bots. 10 years ago, I decided I want to be Twitter famous. And back then I was able to, for less than $1,000, I was able to buy 5 million followers. And eventually they cleaned out most of them, but I still have a ton of followers, probably most of which are still garbage. Russia spends $30 million a year on social media propaganda, which is nothing. $30 million a year. That's what a building costs. Compared to they spend billions on their military. 30 million is nothing. Yet, via the social media, what they call the Russian fire hose of misinformation model, it's so cheap to spread garbage that they're able to make hundreds of millions of people across all the Western democracies believe bullshit. And at a cost of less than $1 a brain, you can make somebody crazy for less than $1. And yeah, that's the problem. Then if you look at AI, there are all these technical terms that are emerging. Like when AI lies to you, it doesn't know it's lying. AI doesn't know anything. AI just takes the information that's out there and barfs it back up to you. And so when AI spits bad information at you, it's called hallucinating. When AI like makes stuff up or just gives you garbage, it's called an AI hallucination. And that's the downside of AI. The upside of AI is like what you were talking about, which is like better at maybe catching like early stage breast tumors. But even that is subject. You need humans riding herd on the AI because the AI might catch stuff early, but you need a human making sure the AI isn't hallucinating. And there's another new term called centaurs. A centaur is the doctor or somebody in any field who is better at their job because they're half person, half AI, because they've learned how to work with AI to make themselves more effective. But then there's the reverse centaurs, which are bad because those are people who think they know what they're doing, but really the AI is riding them. And so when I'm trying to figure out what's going on with AI, sometimes I look to science fiction to see what people are imagining is going to happen, because a lot of that stuff, comes true in one way or another. It's just a big, fast moving world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When you do talk about AI as a chess player, and Sasha runs the chess show, and all the chess players know it. When I started playing chess years ago, chess computer programs were weak. You'd beat them all the time. They're really bad. And same was the one on Delta. When I flew Delta, it was weak, and I could beat it all the time. But things have changed. Now, the strongest chess player in the world is a computer. The computers can beat any human. Magnus Carlsen, it doesn't matter. They can outcalculate and beat anybody. So we've seen a progression in artificial intelligence just in the pure raw calculation. Now, when it comes to the media, here's the problem, besides the bots, which I could have told, who's that guy, Elon Musk, a long time ago. One problem you have in media is getting data. How many people watch the show? How many bots watch the show? And that's the problem. There's no way, when they, at least currently, they haven't been able to pick up whether a bot is watching or a person is watching. So you get information back. Oh, last year we had 2.3 million views, but how many were bots? Don't know yet. The technology isn't there. So, but technology is changing. And so what we're seeing is artificial intelligence making greater strides. Will at some point in time, they create a system like a ranking system. They do it in chess. Everybody has ELO ratings, and that tells you how strong the person is relative to the next. Will they have that on the studies and the information that's going out? In other words, accurately verifiable information. In other words, you could say, this piece of information is not verified. Chess players would say it's rated 900. 900, you really suck. You're horrible. And this one's really good. It's been vetted. It's rated 2600, which would be a grandmaster strength that's really strong. So someday, Dr. Patmos, are we going to be able to rank what we're seeing rather than just here's garbage, and garbage A, garbage B looks the same?
Actually, that it already exists, and we already do in medicine. There is a tool in medicine called UpToDate. It's uptodate.com. And UpToDate, it's a big company that has experts from academic medicine, the top tier experts in their various areas of medicine. They review all the data, all the studies, and according to a standardized methodology, they exclude all the junk. And it's like when you decant wine and there's a filter, they filter out all the junk, and what's left behind is the good information. And that's what's summarized in UpToDate. All doctors, and I got to say this really strongly, all doctors, every doctor must use UpToDate. If you're a doctor and you're not using UpToDate, you are not up to date. And you're subject to misinformation coming in from, the fact that doctors might get information from the internet is outrageous. All doctors need to be getting their information from vetted sources such as UpToDate. UpToDate is the king of the hill. It is the online clinical decision support tool used at every major teaching hospital, medical school in the country. And it is for a reason. They already vet the data. So doctors, use UpToDate. If you're not using UpToDate, I tell my patients, if you go to a doctor and they don't have UpToDate open on their desktop, politely get up and walk out, because that's not a doctor you want to go to. Doctors who don't use UpToDate are not up to date.
Well, that's worth the cost of the program. Yeah, right. Go on.
The amount of information doubles generated by all humans over all history, and now generated by AI doubles in like 10 months now. Like, there's no way to keep up without some kind of thing like you're talking about, some curation service that wades through the garbage
Yep.
and picks out the nuggets. I subscribe to an AI feed that does meta studies. It just cruises around and it says, well, here's what AI says about like hypertension versus exercise. And no human has touched that study. It just collected a bunch of but maybe there's something there you don't know unless a human looks at it and says, yeah, this seems reasonable.
Boy, but just knowing this is great, by the way. Just knowing this tool out here is available, Dr. Patmos. I've never heard of it, but it's great that there is a tool out there and that people should be aware of it, because I certainly never heard of it. And teaching at Northeastern, I introduced to my students SSRN.com, largest depository of academic journals in the world. Okay. And sometimes they put me down, you're one of the top 10% writers. I'm going, that means our academic people are really bad, because I'm just an adjunct occasional writer, which means a lot of these people who are teaching aren't very sharp, I guess. All right, but here's the weakness in SSRN.com. Peer versus non-peer reviewed papers. Any person who's any faculty anywhere can throw a paper up there, claim it to be correct, but no one with an ounce of brains has looked at it. That's a big gaping hole in SSRN. So I need to know a little bit more about this uptodate.com. How do we know that their systems are being vetted properly? I guess that's the question.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
You go ahead. All right, there's the black box problem. Say you've got AI looking at X-rays, looking, at mammograms, and it's the same with chest, where maybe all of a sudden the AI says, "Hey, I've got a problem with this patient, this patient, this patient," and then like a human's like, "Well, I don't see anything." Maybe the AI has figured out something, some statistical thing that's new. It can't tell you, like some chess moves done by AI make total sense. Some of them are crazy, but they still beat you with them. And you see, you don't know what's going on within the AI, and you need a human to poke at the AI, to interrogate it, to see what new stuff it may have found, whether it's crazy, whether it's absorbed a bunch of bad information. You need to work with the AI to just make sure that it's not spewing out craziness. And
so, Nick, to answer your question earlier, how does UpToDate do it? Well, basically, they have contracts with the top academic medical experts for every disease. So, and those experts are charged with monitoring everything published on that disease. It's very focused by disease. So let's say I'm a doctor working with UpToDate, working for UpToDate, and my area of expertise is thyroid nodules. That's it. I monitor all the literature on thyroid nodules and evaluate what's published according to a methodology called critical appraisal. It's a standardized methodology for evaluating the study. And if it meets the criteria for quality, it gets included into the topic summary on thyroid nodules. And if it doesn't, it's discarded as unreliable, poor quality evidence. So it's based upon the fact that the material is reviewed by the world's authorities in these areas. So if a doctor wants to know what's the latest on thyroid nodules, or what's the latest and good information on COVID vaccination, you go to UpToDate. That's where you go for the information. You don't go to Physicians for Informed Consent. You don't go to Twitter. You don't go to Facebook. You go to UpToDate.
Yeah, and that goes back to the quality of the information. It's just like in chess, it's really clear. You look at first of all, Stockfish and some of the computer programs that just beat any human. And then, of course, there's rankings, the Grandmasters, International Masters. The sad part is that people can't tell the difference between a 900 player and a Grandmaster if they post something on the internet. The average person cannot tell the difference. So and the problem with medical information on the internet, we can't tell as a consumer if this Physicians for Informed Consent isn't a grandmaster or it's just Memorex. In other words, somebody just spouting something out, which at least from my empirical evidence, it seems to me they all have agendas by reading their CVs. In other words, somebody has an angst against autism. So he went to Dr. Patmos. This guy went to one conference, And some guy up there said, well, autism is caused by vaccines. He believed it and then said, autism is caused by vaccines. And then he gets on PIC and just keeps railing at stuff like that.
We have
in the old days. Sorry, go ahead.
we have experts out there claiming to be experts on COVID who've never even done an internship. I mean, they graduated medical school, but they've gone off and done other things. They've never even done an internship. You can't be an expert on any clinical thing if you haven't done an internship and a residency. There's another expert out there who's done 1 year of internship, claims to be the world's most knowledgeable person. You can't be. It's not possible. And the public is completely unprotected. No one is looking out for the public when these, embellished experts make claims that they can't really make.
But the fake experts can use AI to sound more authoritative.
Yes,
I could go to the AI that I use occasionally and type in what would be a convincing title of a paper on thyroid nodules, or give me 5 titles, and then I could put together a CV that makes me sound like an expert on thyroid nodules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you take these AI generated articles, publish them in non-peer-reviewed open access journals, which anybody can publish anything, and it sounds legitimate to
the average consumer
in Peoria. They can't, they don't see the difference.
Right. And see, the thing is, and that was the problem I had with SSRN.com. Yes, largest depository of academic journals in the world, but I wrote for them and I had some peer reviewed. It's totally different if you go through a peer reviewed or a non-peer reviewed article. Right. The problem is that you can post either one. So the quality, I could have skewed all the data, made things up, post it, and then said, well, it was published on SSRN.com. And then somebody copies it. It's even worse. Somebody else copies it and quotes it like it's the gospel. And it's a complete fraud. And so they've had this problem. We have a show also, timeshare scams. And the problem with timeshare scams is timeshares are just not regulated. FINRA and the SEC, the area that a lot of the people that work on our company are licensed, are heavily regulated because they sell securities and they sell financial products. And what happens is they have Form ADV. If they make any material misrepresented statement of fact, they get off, and they have to have everything they said reviewed by the broker dealer, which is one reason you won't see securities licensed people on our network. It has nothing to do with they're bad people. They have actually a very high standard of care. Okay, so securities people have this extremely high standard of care in making misstatements. What's wrong with the medical profession? Dr. Pappas, please.
This is a big gaping hole. The COVID has really opened up and the awareness of a gaping hole in this very issue. The medical licensing boards that are responsible for disciplining physicians will not do anything about this because they feel that they're limited to a specific physician-patient relationship. If it's just a general comment made by a physician, not in regards to a particular patient relationship, they have no authority. They say, well, it's freedom of speech. And that allows unqualified doctors posing as fake experts to give incorrect advice in the public sphere on social media, on Fox News, that is clearly wrong, and there's no consequence. Just the other day, Physicians for Informed Consent posted an article that would lead you to believe that tetanus immunization is not necessary because tetanus isn't contagious. The issue of tetanus has nothing to do with why we vaccinate. But the point is, there's no protection for the public. The public is vulnerable, and there's no one out there protecting them from rogue doctors, fake doctors giving misinformation, deadly misinformation.
Or misleading misinformation, which one of my favorite one is 100% of people who take COVID vaccine will die. Okay. That is a absolutely true statement. 100% of the COVID people who take COVID vaccine will die. But as you can see, or anybody could see, it's also a very misleading statement. It leads the viewer to believe that if I take the COVID vaccine, I'm going to die.
Right.
So here I put a true statement: 100% of people who take COVID vaccine will die. I influenced the reader that say, well, I better not take it because I'll die. That's what it says, 100% will die. And it's completely misleading. And so we have a serious problem in that I've seen, especially PIC, do this all the time. If
Yes.
they were selling a security, they would be hammered by the SEC and FINRA for making what they call material misstatements, misleading statements of fact. But that's the SEC and FINRA. Yeah.
It seems to me that where we're going is that anybody competent, doctors, whomever, will need an AI assistant to filter and vet the world for him. So if you say you're that doctor who's an expert on thyroid nodules, you have to sleep sometime. So when you get up after 6 hours of sleep, you ask your AI, anything happened in the world of thyroid nodules, and like how valid is it? And like, what about the rest of the world? And is there anything going on with my wife that you've happened to notice? Is she getting disgruntled? Or are there deals on that car? I was like, it's all like this butler, and then you have to ask your assistant, and how do I know you're not compromised, that some advertiser didn't like inject some bad code into you and you're now like selling me BS?
Okay. I just want to quickly do the disclaimer for people listening on iHeartRadio and Spotify, which they can't see any visuals. This show's for education only. Please consult your own physician if you have a medical condition. Okay, so that this way you know that you just don't go to even our show and say, okay, now I'm going to go do something right, left, or center. So what are your thoughts on this? Because I have a real problem with Pick. I keep picking a fight with him, but I might be doing like you. I might be fighting a bot. There is no Pick. There is no physician for informed consent. It's just a bloody robot out there that's answering questions. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Physicians for Informed Consent is a real organization. They have a board of directors. The board of directors is largely composed of non-physicians, and the physicians who are on the board of directors are largely unqualified. And it's very much a political organization. The main players behind it are linked to ultra-conservative right-wing political groups. So it's really a political entity. They have folks there who do research, and their research is they scour the literature looking for one obscure article, and then they twist the interpretation, just as you said, to try to dissuade. Their goal, they've clearly stated to me in writing, their goal is to revoke compulsory vaccination. They don't want to see children required to have vaccines to go to school anymore. They want to turn back the clock prior to the 1950s and revoke compulsory childhood school vaccinations. That is their goal. And that's putting us back in the Middle Ages.
I assume they're linked to America's Frontline Doctors, which
yes.
is, if you look at America's Frontline Doctors, they're a bunch of lunatics, but they get together and they take a picture, and they're all wearing lab coats, and and a lot of them now. Some of them are different kinds of things that let you say you're a doctor when you're kind of not quite but they look very impressive. If you don't know any better, then you might start buying their BS, like my buddy Lance, who keeps sending me stuff from America's Frontline Doctors.
Well, now I'm more legitimate because I put my stethoscope on.
Yes,
that's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, yes, you're right, Rick. There's they look legitimate, they sound legitimate. America's Frontline Doctors, by the way, was put up and funded by Trump and the GOP. So these are really tied into, that guy who's on trial right now in New York. He's same guy and his buddy Steve Bannon. They're the ones behind all this.
I never thought that we'd see science be politics, because politics is really sleazy and greasy, and I thought science is mathematical and precise, not sleazy and greasy. So it looks like we're living in a different time. Hopefully AI will combat a lot of that, but what we can't combat is our time, because we're running out of time. So we don't want to thank Dr. Patmos and also Rick Rosner for being on the show, and that we're going to give more information. And I just love that thing that you gave us on the medical. I never heard of it, but I guess I'm going to up to date. I never heard of it, but until I started teaching, I never heard of SSRN.com, and I'm going like, okay, that's like not knowing it. What?
I've hired 200 doctors in my career. I won't even hire a doctor who doesn't use Up to Date. They're not
Oh,
even
really?
employed.
Wow. Okay. All right. Wow. Well, hopefully our viewers got that. To me, getting that is getting all the information you need from the show. In other words, you just a major boost
Okay.
increase in what we're doing. So we appreciate that.
Well,
And thank all our viewers from the United
thank you.
States and of course around the world, and people like in places like India and Germany and Great Britain who watch our show. We'll see you next week on Medicine and Science. Take care.
Aloha.
Bye.